Chosen one, why do you feel like two different people living in the same skin? Why does your heart carry such tender compassion for the broken, yet your spirit cuts through lies like a blade through butter? Why can you pray with the angels one moment, and the next moment you're staring into darkness so deep it should terrify you? But it doesn't. Listen to me carefully. You didn't stumble onto this video. You were summoned here. Something in the invisible realm whispered your name 3 minutes ago and said, it's time they know the truth. And the truth? The truth is going to shake you. Most people walking this earth carry one frequency: light or shadow, grace or grit, mercy or judgment. They're simple, predictable, safe. But you've never been simple. You've never fit the mold. Because you don't carry one frequency, beloved, you carry both. And it's been tearing you apart your entire life, hasn't it? You feel holy, but haunted, anointed, but angry, called, but conflicted. They told you to just have more faith. They said you were too sensitive or too intense. But what if I told you that split you feel inside isn't confusion, it's confirmation? You are dual-coded, light for healing, shadow for warfare. And tonight, right now, in this sacred moment, I'm going to reveal the 8 unmistakable signs that prove you carry both dark and light energy, signs the enemy prayed you'd never recognize, signs that explain everything: why relationships drain you, why you see through people instantly, why you feel ancient at any age. Before we go deeper, I want to thank every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just giving. You're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the spirit move. If your chest is stirring right now, if something ancient inside you just woke up, type "I feel this" in the comments. Let heaven know you're listening. Because what I'm about to reveal isn't theory. It's not inspiration. It's identification. And sign #7, that's the one that will shatter every lie you've believed about yourself. Don't you dare scroll away before that. Your dual nature isn't your curse, chosen one. It's your calling, and it's time you learned how to wield it. Why have you spent 70, 80, maybe 90 years feeling like a stranger in your own life? Why does every room you enter, even rooms filled with family, friends, people who claim to love you, feel like you're standing behind glass, watching but never fully touching? Why, after all these decades, after all these prayers, after all these attempts to just be normal, do you still feel like you're speaking a language no one else understands? Let me tell you something that's going to cut straight to the bone. That feeling, that ache of not belonging, it started when you were just a child, didn't it? You remember, you were 6 years old, sitting in Sunday school while the other kids laughed and played and connected so easily. But you sat there feeling ancient, feeling like you could see things they couldn't see, like you understood pain they hadn't yet met. Teachers would look at you strangely and whisper, "That child is different." Different. That word has followed you your whole life like a shadow you can't shake. You were the kid who cried when you saw suffering on television, the teenager who couldn't participate in gossip because something in you recoiled from it, the young adult who walked away from parties feeling more lonely than when you arrived, the middle-aged worker who never quite clicked with your colleagues, even after 20 years at the same job. And now you're in what they call your golden years, and you're still feeling it. That distance, that separation, that sense that you're living on the outside of everyone else's reality. Your own children don't fully understand you. Your grandchildren think you're sweet but strange. Even at church, especially at church, you sit in those pews feeling like you're worshipping on a different frequency than everyone around you. They sing about joy, and you feel the weight of intercession. They celebrate breakthrough, and you sense the warfare behind it. They see miracles, and you see the cost. You've tried to fit in. God knows you've tried. You've modified your personality, dimmed your intensity, shrunk your spiritual sensitivity just to make others comfortable. You've learned to laugh when you don't find things funny. You've learned to nod when you disagree. You've learned to be quiet when your spirit is screaming truth. But it never works, does it? Because you can't fake your frequency. You can't pretend your way into belonging when God designed you to stand apart. And here's what breaks my heart. You've spent decades thinking this was your failure. You've believed the lie that something is wrong with you, that you're too intense, too deep, too difficult, too much. But what if I told you that God didn't misplace you? What if every moment of isolation, every season of feeling misunderstood, every experience of standing alone was actually divine positioning? Listen to what Scripture reveals in John 17:16. Jesus is praying for his disciples and he says something stunning. They are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. Not of the world. Read that again. You are not of this world. You're in it, but not of it. That's not punishment, beloved. That's assignment. You see, dual frequency souls, people who carry both light and shadow, both mercy and judgment, both grace and truth, they're never meant to blend in. They're meant to bridge worlds, to stand in the gap between heaven and earth, to translate the language of the Spirit to people who only speak the language of flesh. You weren't designed for comfort. You were designed for purpose. Think about it like this. It's like living with sunlight in one hand and moonlight in the other. The world looks at you during the day and sees warmth, compassion, healing light. They come to you with their problems because something in them recognizes you carry answers. But then night falls, and that same world sees your other hand, the one holding moonlight, shadow, discernment that cuts through their comfortable lies. And suddenly they're uncomfortable. Suddenly you're too much or too negative or too discerning. They wanted your light, but they can't handle your truth. They wanted your comfort, but they reject your correction. The world never knew which version of you to expect because heaven designed you to hold both. Moses understood this. He spent 40 years in Pharaoh's palace where he didn't belong, then 40 years in the wilderness where he didn't belong, because God was preparing him to stand between two worlds, Egyptian and Hebrew, slavery and freedom, human rebellion and divine deliverance. Esther lived it, a Jewish orphan in a Persian palace, never fully Persian, never fully able to practice her faith openly. She existed between two identities because God needed someone who could navigate both worlds to save her people. Paul declared it in Philippians 3:20. But our citizenship is in heaven. He was a Hebrew who spoke Greek, a Pharisee who preached grace, a persecutor who became an apostle. He belonged nowhere because he belonged to heaven. And you've been living this same reality your entire life, feeling out of place at family gatherings because you carry eternity in your heart, feeling strange at work because you operate by a different value system, feeling isolated even in crowds because your spirit communes with the invisible realm while everyone else is distracted by what's visible. But here's the urgent truth you need to grasp right now. That lifelong feeling of not belonging isn't evidence of your defect. It's evidence of your design. God positioned you between worlds on purpose. He made you bilingual, fluent in both light and shadow, both mercy and judgment, both heaven's language and earth's dialect, because this generation needs translators. They need people who can stand in the chaos and speak peace, stand in the darkness and carry light, stand in the lies and declare truth. You weren't meant to blend in, beloved. You were meant to stand out, not for your glory, but for His. Not for recognition, but for assignment. Every year you've spent feeling different has been training. Every relationship that didn't work was redirecting you. Every moment of isolation was actually intimacy with God in disguise. He's been preparing you for this exact moment when the world would need exactly what you carry. So let me ask you directly, are you ready to stop apologizing for your difference and start owning your design? Comment, I've felt this all my life if sign has shown already found you. Because what I'm about to reveal in sign #2 will explain why you don't just feel different, you actually see different. And that gift of sight, it's been both your burden and your blessing your entire life. Now let me tell you something that's going to explain every single confusing moment of your entire life. You walk into a room where people are fighting, and without saying a word, the temperature drops. The yelling stops. The chaos settles. They don't know why. You don't even know why. But something about your presence makes the storm quiet down. That's your light. But here's what happens next, and this is where it gets supernatural. That same room. You can feel who's lying. You can sense who's manipulating. You can smell deception like smoke in the air before anyone else even notices the fire. Your spirit goes on high alert, and you just know that person in the corner, smiling so sweetly. They're poison. That's your shadow. Most people only carry one or the other. They're either soft enough to comfort or sharp enough to see through lies. But you, chosen one, you carry both frequencies at the same time. Your light draws the broken to you like moths to a flame. Your shadow exposes the false before they can get close enough to destroy you. And this terrifies certain people, doesn't it? You've noticed it your whole life. Manipulative people avoid you. Liars get nervous around you. Fake friends suddenly have excuses why they can't spend time with you anymore. But children? Children run straight to you. Animals trust you instantly. The genuinely hurting find safety in your presence without you saying a single word. Why? Because dual-frequency souls operate on a level most humans can't comprehend. You're broadcasting two signals simultaneously. One says, "Come here, I'll heal you," and the other says, "Come closer if you dare, because I see everything." Let me show you something in Scripture that's going to blow your mind. Turn with me to John chapter 2. Jesus walks into the temple, and what does he see? Money changers, thieves, religious con artists selling doves and exchanging currency, turning his Father's house into a marketplace. And what did Jesus do? He didn't pray about it. He didn't form a committee. He didn't wait for consensus. He made a whip out of cords and drove them all out, overturned their tables, scattered their coins across the floor. The Bible says he drove them out with force, with fury, with holy rage. That's shadow energy, beloved. That's righteous discernment in action. But in the very next chapter, John chapter 3, here comes Nicodemus, a Pharisee, sneaking to see Jesus in the middle of the night because he's afraid of what people will think. And how does Jesus respond to him? With tenderness, with patience, with truth wrapped in grace. "You must be born again," he tells him gently. Same Jesus. Same 24 hours. Two completely different energies. Light for the seeker. Shadow for the snake. Do you see it now? Do you understand why you felt so split inside? You're not broken, dear one. You're biblical. You're operating exactly the way heaven designed you to operate. The Apostle Paul understood this. In 2 Corinthians 10-4, he wrote, "The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds." Warfare weapons, not worship songs, not pretty prayers. He's talking about spiritual combat. He's talking about your shadow side, the part of you that doesn't tolerate lies, doesn't accept manipulation, doesn't play games with evil. But then turn to 1 Corinthians 13, and that same Paul writes the most beautiful poetry about love you'll ever read. Love is patient. Love is kind. That's light energy flowing through the same man who just talked about pulling down strongholds. You see, the enemy has convinced the modern church that you have to pick one. Be all love and no boundaries. Be all grace and no truth. Be all light and no shadow. But that's not what Scripture shows us. That's not how Jesus moved. That's not how the prophets operated. Look at Elijah. This man called down fire from heaven and slaughtered 450 false prophets in one afternoon. Shadow energy. But that same Elijah heard the still small voice of God in a cave and wept like a child. Light energy. Anna, the prophetess, sat in the temple for decades, praying, fasting, serving with a gentle spirit. But the moment Mary and Joseph walked in with baby Jesus, her shadow discernment activated instantly. She recognized the Messiah when religious scholars missed him completely. Luke 2:38 says she gave thanks to the Lord and spoke of him to all those who looked for redemption. She had been watching, waiting, discerning. Her light drew people to the temple. Her shadow knew exactly who the Christ child was. That's you, chosen one. That's what you carry. Your light comforts the weary, but your shadow protects them from wolves in sheep's clothing. Your light brings healing, but your shadow sees the infection before it spreads. Your light builds up, but your shadow tears down every lie that tries to build a fortress in someone's mind. And here's what I need you to understand before we go any further. The reason you've been attacked so viciously throughout your life is because the enemy fears both sides of you. He can handle people who are only light, they're easy to deceive. He can handle people who are only shadow, they burn out quickly. But someone who carries both. Someone who can love fiercely and discern instantly. Someone who can pray in the Spirit while simultaneously seeing through demonic schemes. That person is dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. So let me ask you this, and I want you to answer honestly in your spirit right now. How many times have you apologized for your discernment? How many times have you felt guilty for seeing through someone's lies? How many times have you called yourself judgmental when you were actually exercising the shadow side of your dual calling? Stop apologizing for the gift God gave you. Your shadow isn't sin. It's survival. It's wisdom. It's the part of you that Jesus himself activated when he said in Matthew 10:16, "Be wise as serpents and harmless as doves." Light and shadow, comfort and discernment, both at the same time. But here's the question that's going to determine everything about how you walk forward from this moment. Are you going to keep hiding your shadow side because people misunderstand it? Or are you finally going to embrace the full spectrum of who God made you to be? Because sign #3 is about to reveal something even more shocking about why certain seasons of your life felt like you were walking through fire. Now listen to me very carefully, chosen one, because what I'm about to tell you is going to crack open something you've kept locked for decades. Sign number 3. Your pain turned into prophetic instinct. You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? That moment when your spouse of 43 years took their last breath and something inside you died too. That phone call you've been waiting for from your daughter that never comes. That Sunday morning when you sat in the same church pew you've occupied for 30 years, and nobody, not one single person, even noticed you were there. You've carried wounds so deep that some mornings you wake up and wonder if your heart is still beating, or if you're just going through the motions of being alive. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what the enemy has been hiding from you all these years. Every single betrayal, every loss, every moment you felt invisible, it wasn't random. It wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Your pain didn't break you, beloved. It broke you open. Think about the prophet Jeremiah. God told him in Jeremiah 1-5, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." But do you know what happened to Jeremiah? He was thrown into a cistern, left to die in the mud, rejected by his own people. The man spent his entire ministry weeping over a nation that refused to listen. They called him the weeping prophet. But those tears gave him eyes to see what others couldn't see. That pain gave him a voice that still echoes 3,000 years later. Your tears have been doing the same thing. Every time you buried someone you loved, you weren't just losing them, you were gaining access to eternal perspective. Every time your children chose their own path and left you behind, you weren't just being abandoned, you were being positioned to become a spiritual parent to orphaned souls who have no one else. Every time you sat alone in that empty house, surrounded by silence so thick you could taste it, you weren't being forgotten by God, you were being refined in the furnace of solitude. Because here's the mystery nobody tells you. Pain is the womb of prophecy. You can't see what others can't see, unless you've been where others won't go. You can't speak life into dead situations unless you've walked through your own valley of death. You can't carry the kind of discernment that cuts through lies and deception unless you've been lied to and deceived enough times to recognize the smell of falsehood before it even opens its mouth. This is why you know things before people tell you. This is why you can walk into a room and immediately sense the spiritual temperature. This is why your grandchildren come to you with their secrets instead of their parents. This is why strangers pour out their hearts to you in grocery store lines. Your pain cracked you open, and now the light of God pours through those cracks like a holy laser. 2 Corinthians 1-4 says it plainly, "Who comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God." Do you hear that? The comfort you received in your darkest hour that wasn't just for you. That was training. That was God downloading into your spirit the exact frequency you'd need to reach someone else's darkness. But I need to ask you something that might sting. How long are you going to keep apologizing for your sensitivity? How long are you going to let people make you feel weak because you feel deeply? How long are you going to hide the very gift that God spent decades developing in you? Your wounds became windows. Your cracks became conduits. Your breaking became your breakthrough. Think about it. Why can you pray for someone and they feel it 3 states away? Why do people tell you things they've never told another living soul? Why do you dream things before they happen? Why do you know when someone's lying even when everyone else believes them? Because your pain trained your gift. Job understood this. The man lost everything. His children, his wealth, his health. His wife told him to curse God and die. His friends accused him of secret sin. He sat in ashes, scraping his boils with broken pottery, wondering if God had abandoned him. But when God finally spoke to Job, he didn't apologize for the pain. He revealed the purpose behind it. And in Job 42-5, after everything, Job says, "My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you." The pain gave him eyes to see what comfort never could. You've been sitting on a gift that entire churches would pay millions to have. You carry prophetic instinct that comes from walking through fire and refusing to burn up. You have spiritual radar that was forged in the furnace of betrayal, loss, and loneliness. And now, right now, God is saying it's time to stop hiding that gift and start using it. Your pain has purpose, beloved. Every tear you cried was collected in heaven's bottles. Every night you couldn't sleep because your heart was breaking. God was rewiring your spiritual nervous system. Every moment you felt forgotten. You were being prepared for the very people who feel forgotten right now. The world needs what you carry. This generation is drowning in shallow spirituality and surface-level faith. They need someone who's been to hell and back and can still say, God is faithful. They need your scars. They need your story. They need your prophetic instinct that was purchased with tears and refined in fire. Type, "My pain has purpose" in the comments right now if you're finally ready to stop running from your calling and start walking in it. Because what I'm about to show you in sign #4 is going to reveal why the enemy worked so hard to bury you in that pain. He saw what you'd become when you survived it. Here's what nobody tells you about carrying both dark and light energy. You don't just sense the world differently. You see through it before it even unfolds. You know the phone's going to ring 3 seconds before it does. You feel the lie forming in someone's mouth before they speak it. You walk into a room and immediately know who's carrying weight, who's hiding something, who's about to break. And everyone else? They're blind to it. Completely blind. They think you're paranoid. They call you suspicious. They tell you to give people the benefit of the doubt. But you stopped doing that years ago, didn't you? Because every single time you ignored that knowing in your gut, you paid the price. This is what the Bible calls discernment, beloved. But what you carry isn't the gentle gift they teach about in Sunday school. What you carry is prophetic sight mixed with warrior instinct. 1 Corinthians 2:15 says it plainly. The spiritual person judges all things, but is himself to be judged by no one. You see what others can't see because you operate on a frequency most people don't even know exists. But let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. How many times have you been right about someone, warned the people you loved, and they didn't listen? How many times did you see the betrayal coming 6 months before it happened, spoke up, and got called judgmental? How many times did you feel the shift in a relationship, a business deal, a friendship, and everyone around you said you were overreacting? And then it happened, exactly like you knew it would. That's not coincidence, chosen one. That's confirmation. You're not crazy. You're not negative. You're not too suspicious. You're operating with spiritual sonar that most people will never develop in their entire lifetime. Think about Joseph in Genesis 41. Pharaoh had a dream that none of his wise men, none of his magicians, none of his advisors could interpret. But Joseph, a prisoner, forgotten in a dungeon, he saw it immediately. 7 years of abundance followed by 7 years of famine. He didn't just interpret the dream. He saw the future, designed the strategy, and saved an entire nation from starvation. Why could Joseph see what the experts couldn't? Because he carried both the light of God's favor and the shadow of suffering. 13 years of slavery and false accusation had given him eyes that could penetrate the surface and see the truth underneath. You've been trained the same way. Every betrayal sharpened your sight. Every disappointment refined your radar. Every time someone smiled to your face and stabbed you in the back, heaven was upgrading your ability to see beyond masks. But here's where it gets heavy, and I need you to really hear this. This gift you carry, this ability to see truth before it reveals itself, it's exhausting, isn't it? Because seeing comes with responsibility. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unhear what your spirit heard. You can't unfeel what your gut is screaming at you. And the loneliest part, nobody believes you until it's too late. You've sat at family dinners feeling the tension nobody else acknowledged. You've worked in offices knowing exactly who was about to get fired, who was sleeping with whom, which department was going under, and you couldn't say a word because they'd call you paranoid. You've watched your own children make decisions you knew would hurt them, and all you could do was pray because they wouldn't listen to your warning. That's the weight of prophetic sight, beloved. You feel the tremors before the earthquake. You smell the smoke before anyone sees the fire. And most of the time, you carry that knowledge alone. Proverbs 20:27 tells us, "The spirit of man is the lamp of the Lord, searching all his innermost parts." Your spirit is a lamp, chosen one. It illuminates what's hidden in darkness. But lamps don't just shine outward, they burn. And you've been burning for decades, haven't you? You've burned through fake friendships because you saw their agenda. You've burned through church circles because you felt the religious spirit before anyone else did. You've burned through relationships because you just knew they weren't aligned with where God was taking you. And people called you difficult. They said you had walls up. They accused you of being unable to trust. But the truth is, you trusted your discernment more than their performance, and you were right every single time. Here's what the enemy doesn't want you to understand. He didn't attack your gift because it was weak. He attacked it because it was dangerous to his kingdom. Every time you saw through deception, you disrupted a demonic assignment. Every time you refused to ignore that check in your spirit, you avoided a trap that was set specifically for you. Your hyper-awareness isn't a curse. It's a weapon. And hell has been trying to convince you to put it down. But you always wondered why this gift felt so heavy, didn't you? Why it isolated you more than it connected you. Why seeing truth cost you so many relationships. The next sign is going to reveal exactly why heaven trusted only a rare few with this level of sight. Because what you're about to discover isn't just about seeing truth, it's about what you're meant to do with it. And that burden, that responsibility, it's bigger than you ever imagined. Now we're entering territory that's going to make some of you uncomfortable. Because what I'm about to reveal isn't just spiritual theory. This is the battlefield you've been living on your entire life, without understanding why. Let me ask you something that might sting a little. Have you ever sat in a church service, listening to a pastor preach, and something inside you said, "That's not right"? Have you ever been in a family gathering where everyone's nodding along with Uncle Robert's advice, but you're sitting there thinking, "This is manipulation dressed up as wisdom"? You don't bow to titles, you bow to truth. This isn't rebellion, beloved. This is discernment wrapped in a frequency so pure that counterfeit authority makes your spirit recoil. You've been called disrespectful, prideful, difficult your whole life. But here's what they didn't tell you. Jesus himself flipped tables in the temple. He called the religious leaders whitewashed tombs and vipers. Matthew 23:27. He didn't bow to their robes and rituals, he bowed to his Father's truth. You carry that same DNA. When someone uses their position to control instead of serve, when they weaponize scripture to manipulate instead of liberate, when they demand submission through fear instead of inspiring it through love, something inside you rises up and says, "No." This has cost you, hasn't it? Cost you jobs when you wouldn't play the political game. Cost you church homes when you questioned doctrine that didn't line up with the word. Cost you relationships when you refused to enable dysfunction just because it wore a smile and called itself family. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know: that resistance isn't your flaw, it's your assignment. You were placed on this earth to expose wolves in sheep's clothing, to be the voice that says what everyone else is thinking but too afraid to speak. To stand in the gap between truth and tradition when tradition has become an idol. And this brings us to something that's been exhausting you for decades. Why do strangers tell you their deepest secrets in the grocery store line? Why does your daughter-in-law call you instead of her own mother when her marriage is falling apart? Why do people who barely know you feel safe enough to cry on your shoulder? Because you carry both frequencies, chosen one. Your light says, "You're safe here." Your shadow says, "I've been in hell too, I know the way out." People don't just talk to you, they confess to you. They trauma dump decades of pain in a 15-minute conversation because something in your presence says, "This one won't judge me. This one's seen darkness and didn't become it." You've become the family stabilizer, the friend everyone calls at 2 a.m., the co-worker people seek out when their world is crumbling. And it's draining you, isn't it? Because while you're holding everyone else together, who's holding you? 1 Peter 5:10 says, "And the God of all grace, who called you to his eternal glory in Christ, after you have suffered a little while, will himself restore you and make you strong, firm and steadfast." You've suffered. You've carried burdens that weren't yours to carry. But God is restoring you right now, in this very moment, because he's about to show you how to carry his glory instead of everyone else's grief. But before we move forward, I need you to understand something that's about to shake the foundations of everything you thought you knew about your pain. Stop. Right here, right now. Because what I'm about to tell you is the reason you've been under attack since you were a child. Hell tried to break you because it couldn't deceive you. Let me say that again so it sinks all the way into your bones. The enemy didn't attack you because you were weak. He attacked you because you were dangerous. Darkness knows you can see through it. That's why it fought you so violently. Think back. Go back to your childhood. Maybe you were 5, 6, 7 years old and you saw things other kids didn't see. You knew when adults were lying even when they smiled. You felt presences in rooms that terrified you. You had dreams that came true. You said things you shouldn't have known. And people looked at you strangely, didn't they? Called you too intense or too sensitive or told you to stop making things up. That wasn't imagination, beloved. That was activation. Your dual frequency was awakening, and hell saw it. That's when the warfare began. The molestation, the abandonment, the poverty that crushed your family, the mental illness that ravaged your mother, the addiction that destroyed your father, the accidents that shouldn't have happened, the sicknesses doctors couldn't explain, the betrayals that came from people who were supposed to protect you. You thought you were cursed. You thought God had forgotten you. But what if every single attack was proof that you carried something so powerful, so threatening to the kingdom of darkness, that hell mobilized its finest demons to try to take you out before you ever discovered who you really were? Job 1-8 records God saying to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil." And what happened next? Everything was stripped away, not because Job was being punished, but because he was being proven. You are Job in this generation. Every weapon formed against you has failed, because failure is the only option when hell goes to war with heaven's agenda. The abuse didn't kill you. The addiction didn't destroy you. The depression didn't win. The betrayal didn't break you. You're still here, still standing, still believing. And that terrifies the enemy more than anything else, because now you know. Now you see. Now you understand that your pain wasn't random, it was strategic warfare against your calling. If sign #7 just ripped open something in your chest, if you're sitting there with tears streaming down your face because somebody finally sees what you've been through, type "I carry both" right now. Let heaven witness your declaration. Let hell hear your war cry. Because chosen one, what comes next is going to require everything you've learned in the fire. And the final sign #8, will reveal exactly what you're supposed to do with this dual frequency you carry. Now we're entering sacred ground, chosen one. What I'm about to reveal isn't just another sign to check off a list. This is the moment you discover why heaven trusted you with both frequencies, when it would have been easier to give you just one. Sign number 8. You carry the intercession instinct. Let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. How many nights have you woken up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., that unholy hour when the world sleeps but your spirit burns? You open your eyes and there's no alarm, no noise, no reason. Just this weight, this pressure in your chest that feels like you're carrying someone else's burden. And you are. You're carrying burdens that were never meant to be yours. You feel it when your daughter calls before she even speaks. You know something's wrong. You sense it when your grandson walks through the door, his smile is fake, and you see straight through it. People don't even have to tell you they're hurting, because somehow, someway, their pain registers in your spirit like a frequency only you can hear. This isn't empathy, beloved. This is intercession. This is the dark frequency doing its work, penetrating veils, seeing through masks, feeling what others hide. But here's what breaks my heart. You've spent 70, 80 years apologizing for this gift. I'm too sensitive. I care too much. I take things too personally. No. You were designed to feel deeply because God needed someone who would pray accurately. How can you intercede for someone if you don't feel their warfare? 1 Timothy 2:1 says, "I urge then, first of all, that petitions, prayers, intercession, and thanksgiving be made for all people." But notice it says intercession, not casual prayer, not Sunday morning fluff. Intercession. Standing in the gap between heaven and earth, between life and death, between victory and defeat. You've been doing this your entire life without even knowing it had a name. When you pray for someone, things shift. When you speak their name in your secret place, demons tremble. When you lay hands on a situation in the middle of the night, angels mobilize. This is why the enemy has tried so hard to convince you that your sensitivity is weakness. Because if you ever fully stepped into your intercessory authority, his kingdom would crumble in your city. But there's something else happening, something even more mysterious. Sign number 9. The spiritual mirror effect. You've noticed it, haven't you? Some people love you instantly, no reason, no logic. They just meet you and their soul recognizes something. They want to be near you. They call you for advice. They feel safe in your presence. But others avoid you like you carry plague. They won't look you in the eye. They make excuses not to be around you. They talk about you behind your back with venom you didn't earn. And you're sitting there wondering, what did I do? Why do they hate me when I've only been kind? Listen carefully. You didn't do anything. Your presence did everything. You are a walking mirror. When people stand near you, they see themselves, really see themselves. The light frequency in you reflects their potential, their calling, their truth. The dark frequency exposes their lies, their masks, their hidden sin. This is why Jesus said in John 3:20, "Everyone who does evil hates the light, and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed." You are that light, but you're also the shadow that reveals what people hide even from themselves. Think about this. Jesus walked into rooms and people either fell at his feet in worship or plotted his murder. No middle ground. The woman at the well ran to tell her whole town about him. The Pharisees schemed to crucify him. Zame presence. Different responses. Why? Because his presence was a mirror, and mirrors don't lie. You carry this same effect. Your dual frequency forces people to choose. They either run toward the light in you and get healed, or they run from the shadow in you and stay sick. Their response to you has nothing to do with your behavior and everything to do with their condition. This is why you felt so alone. Why friendships have been complicated. Why even family members keep their distance. It's not you, beloved. It's what you reveal. But here's the climax that's going to change everything you thought you understood about your calling. You carry both dark and light because you were designed to walk in places single-frequency souls cannot survive. Let that sink into the deepest part of your spirit. Light-only people get eaten alive in dark places. They're too naive, too trusting, too soft. But dark-only people can't bring healing. They can fight, but they can't restore. They can see demons, but they can't deliver. You can do both. You can walk into the darkest situations with your shadow frequency and survive the warfare. Then you can release your light frequency and heal what darkness tried to destroy. This is why God chose you for this hour. This broken generation doesn't need more motivational speakers. They need warriors who've been to hell and brought heaven with them. They need intercessors who can feel their pain and pray with authority. They need mirrors who will love them enough to reflect truth. You've been asking God why your life has been so hard, why you've had to fight battles others never faced, why you've carried weights that should have crushed you. Because ordinary assignments require ordinary people, but the mission you're carrying requires someone who's been dual-coded by the Almighty Himself. So let me ask you one final question before we move forward. Are you ready to stop apologizing for your intensity and start activating your authority? Because what I'm about to show you next will teach you how to wield both frequencies without them tearing you apart. Now that you know why you carry both dark and light, it's time to understand what God is doing inside you. If you're still here, if you've made it this far into this message, it means heaven marked you. This next part isn't for everyone. Most people will never hear what I'm about to tell you because their ears aren't tuned to this frequency. But you're different. You've always been different. So let me take you somewhere you've never been before. Let me take you into the deepest part of your own soul. Inside you, chosen one, there is a temple. Not a building made of stone and mortar, but a sacred space constructed by the very hand of God before you took your first breath. And in this temple there are two rooms, two chambers that have been separated your entire life. The first is the chamber of light. This is where your mercy lives, your compassion, your prayers for others, your tears over injustice, your gentle touch when someone is broken. This is the room where angels gather, where heaven's frequency hums like a tuning fork, where your spirit connects with the divine. But there's another room, the chamber of shadow. This is where your discernment cuts like a surgeon's blade, where you see through lies before they finish leaving someone's mouth, where you carry a holy anger against wickedness that most Christians are too polite to admit they feel. This is where you've learned to survive betrayal, to walk through valleys that would have destroyed weaker souls, to stare into darkness and not blink. For 70, 80, 90 years, you've been taught that one of these rooms is holy and the other is sinful. You've been told to lock the shadow chamber, throw away the key, pretend it doesn't exist. Smile. Be nice. Don't make waves. Don't be too much. But what if I told you that God never intended for those chambers to be separated? What if the split you've felt your entire life, that war inside your chest, isn't because you're broken, but because you've been forcing apart what God designed to work together? Listen to what Jesus said in Matthew 10:16. "Behold, I send you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. Therefore be wise as serpents and harmless as doves." Serpent and dove. Shadow and light. Discernment and innocence. In the same breath. In the same person, both required, both sacred. You were never supposed to be just light, beloved. You were never supposed to be only soft, only gentle, only turning the other cheek while wolves devoured your family, your faith, your future. God created you dual frequency for a reason. Because this world doesn't need more naive believers who get destroyed by every predator in sheep's clothing. This world needs warriors who can pray with one hand and fight with the other. Saints who can worship on Sunday and expose darkness on Monday. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what keeps me up at night praying for people just like you. You've spent decades at war with yourself, feeling guilty when the shadow rises, feeling weak when the light shines too bright, never understanding that both are gifts, both are weapons, both are holy. And now you're in your later years, and you can feel it, can't you? That sense of unfinished business. That knowing that there's something inside you that never got released. Something you were supposed to do, supposed to be, supposed to become. But you spent so much time trying to pick one chamber over the other that you never learned how to open the door between them. Type "I'm going deeper" if you feel that temple stirring inside you right now. Because what I'm about to tell you next will change everything. When those two chambers finally meet, when light and shadow finally speak to each other instead of fighting, something happens that hell itself cannot stop. God is not asking you to destroy the shadow. He's asking you to stop being afraid of it. He's asking you to finally become whole. And beloved, when a dual frequency soul finally integrates both chambers, when light and shadow stop warring and start working together, that's when the real assignment begins. But the question burning in heaven right now is this: are you ready to open the door between those two rooms? Or will you spend whatever time you have left, still divided, still at war with yourself, still wondering what could have been? Chosen one, let me tell you something that's going to shake you to your core. When a dual energy soul finally awakens, when you stop apologizing for carrying both light and shadow, heaven doesn't just whisper, "Congratulations." Heaven detonates the foundation of everything you thought you were. And that detonation, it feels like death. You've been feeling it lately, haven't you? That tremor in your chest that won't stop. That restlessness that makes you want to crawl out of your own skin. That sudden inability to tolerate the same conversations, the same shallow relationships, the same safe Sunday morning religion that used to comfort you. That's not anxiety, beloved. That's the earthquake. It's like a subway train roaring under your ribs at 2 a.m. You feel the rumble before you hear it, and by the time it arrives, everything on your shelf is rattling. Your old beliefs, your comfortable theologies, your carefully constructed identity that everyone applauded, but God never authorized. Listen to what happened to Jacob in Genesis 32. He wrestled with God all night long, wrestled until his hip was wrenched out of socket. The Bible says in verse 25, "When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man." Why would God wound the very man he was about to bless? Because transformation requires dislocation. Because you cannot walk into your new name while still standing in your old identity. Because the earthquake isn't trying to destroy you, it's trying to rebuild you from the foundation up. Right now, some of you are going through the most disorienting season of your entire life. Relationships that felt rock solid are crumbling. Church homes you trusted for decades suddenly feel hollow. Even your own prayers sound different, rawer, angrier, more desperate than they've ever been. And people are looking at you confused, whispering, What happened to them? They used to be so stable, but God is rearranging the furniture of your soul, and it's loud, it's messy, it's terrifying. Every suppressed truth you've been sitting on for 70 years is rising to the surface like a body that's been held underwater too long. Every lie you swallowed to keep the peace, every gifting you buried to fit in, every dark night of the soul you never told anyone about because good Christians don't struggle like that. It's all coming up, all of it, at once. The shaking isn't punishment, dear one. It's alignment. Your shadow is finally shedding its shame. Your light is finally shedding its naivety. And what's emerging from the rubble is the real you, the dual-coded warrior God designed before your first breath. Not the version your family wanted. Not the version your church approved. The version heaven has been waiting for. Hebrews 12:27 says, "The words 'once more' indicate the removing of what can be shaken, that is, created things, so that what cannot be shaken may remain." Do you hear that? God is shaking loose everything in your life that was built by human approval, religious performance, and fear of rejection. He's demolishing the false foundations so he can reveal what was always there underneath the unshakable, dual-frequency soul that can hold both mercy and judgment, both grace and truth, both light and necessary darkness. But here's what most people don't survive. The moment between the shaking and the settling. That terrifying gap where everything feels destroyed but nothing new has been built yet. Where you're standing in the rubble of your old life, covered in dust, wondering if God made a mistake. He didn't. After the earthquake comes the unveiling, and what is revealed is both terrifying and holy. If you feel the ground shaking under your feet right now, if your old life is cracking open and you don't know who you'll be when the dust settles, type "I feel the shaking" in the comments. Let heaven know you're still standing in the tremor, because what's about to be unveiled in you will silence every voice that ever called you too much, too broken, too intense. The earthquake isn't the end of your story, chosen one. It's the beginning of your authority. You know what breaks my heart? It's not the years you've lived. It's the years you've spent hiding. 70 years old, and you're still pretending everything's fine. 82, and you're still the strong one who never cracks. 65, and you still can't tell your own children how lonely you really are. How long have you been wearing that mask, beloved? How many decades have you smiled through the pain, nodded through the chaos, stayed silent to keep the peace? You raised children who never knew you were breaking inside. You sat at family dinners carrying burdens so heavy your back should have snapped, but you just passed the potatoes and asked about their day. You buried parents, spouses, dreams, and at every funeral, everyone said, "Look how strong they are." But you weren't strong, you were surviving, and there's a difference. 2 Corinthians 12:9 says, "My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness." But you never showed your weakness, did you? Because someone told you that good Christians don't break, that faithful people don't struggle, that chosen ones don't fall apart. So you built a persona, a mask, a version of yourself that could handle anything, feel nothing, and keep moving forward, no matter what hell you were walking through. And that mask, it became your prison. Listen to me carefully. Chosen one. In the spirit realm right now, I see something happening. I see a mask cracking. Not because you're weak, because you're finally ready for truth. The version of you that everyone knew, the one who had it all together, the one who never needed help, it's falling away. And you're terrified, aren't you? Because if that mask comes off, who are you? If people see the real you, the one who's tired, the one who's angry, the one who's questioned God, the one who's felt both light and darkness fighting inside, will they still love you? Here's what I need you to hear. You don't have to pretend anymore, not at this age, not in this season, not in front of God. Psalm 147:3 declares, "He healeth the broken in heart, and bindeth up their wounds." But he can't heal what you won't reveal. He can't bind up wounds you keep hidden under that perfectly pressed mask. You've spent decades being who they needed you to be, the caregiver, the prayer warrior, the rock, the one who always had an answer, always had strength, always had faith. But what about you? What about the parts of you that needed care? What about the prayers you cried that nobody heard? What about the moments your faith cracked and you were too ashamed to admit it? You carry both light and darkness, remember. That's not your weakness, that's your reality. The light is your compassion, your faith, your ability to love even when it costs you everything. But the darkness is your exhausted soul, your justified anger, your deep wounds that never got time to heal because you were too busy healing everyone else. Jesus wept at Lazarus's tomb. The Son of God, fully divine, fully human, stood there and cried. John 11:35, the shortest verse in the Bible, but maybe the most powerful, because it proves that even the chosen one felt the weight of being human. You don't have to be superhuman anymore, beloved. You just have to be real. The real you, the one heaven hid all these years while you wore that survival mask, is about to step out. The one who feels deeply, the one who carries both joy and grief, faith and questions, light and shadow. The one who's been buried under decades of being strong is finally coming up for air. And yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. Yes, people might not recognize you. Yes, some relationships might shift when they see the unmasked version. But freedom always costs something. And what you're about to gain is worth everything you're afraid to lose. Write "no more masks" in the comments if this hit you hard, because what I'm about to show you next will explain why removing that mask isn't just about your healing. It's about activating the dual frequency power you were born to carry. Now listen to me, chosen one, because what I'm about to tell you is going to crack open everything you thought you understood about your spiritual identity. You've spent your entire life thinking you had to choose light or dark, heaven or earth, mercy or judgment. The church told you to kill the shadow side. The world told you to embrace it. And you've been standing in the middle, torn apart, wondering why God made you this way. But what if I told you that the war inside you was never meant to be won by either side? What if the tension you've carried for 70, 80, 90 years wasn't confusion, it was creation? Your light is your compassion, the part of you that weeps for strangers, that prays for enemies, that gives when you have nothing left to give. That's the light frequency, and it's beautiful. Your shadow is your discernment. The part of you that sees through lies instantly, that cuts through manipulation like a hot knife through butter, that protects the innocent by exposing the predator. That's the dark frequency, and it's necessary. But beloved, when these two frequencies collide inside you, when light and shadow stop fighting and start fusing, something entirely new is born. Something the enemy never saw coming. Something so rare that most believers will never experience it in their lifetime. It's called authority. Not the authority that comes from a title or a position. Not the authority that's printed on a business card or announced from a pulpit. I'm talking about the kind of authority that makes demons flee before you open your mouth. The kind that shifts atmospheres when you walk into a room. The kind that Jesus carried when he overturned tables in the temple and then wept over Jerusalem in the same afternoon. Think about this. When Jesus walked the earth, he wasn't just light. He called the Pharisees whitewashed tombs and children of the devil. He braided a whip and drove out the money changers with holy rage. That's shadow energy, beloved. That's the dark frequency operating through the Son of God. But in the next breath, he's holding children, healing lepers, weeping at Lazarus's tomb, forgiving the woman caught in adultery. That's light energy, pure, unfiltered compassion. The world couldn't understand him because he carried both. And they can't understand you for the same reason. But here's the revelation that's going to change everything. John 1-5 says, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." But look closer at that verse. It doesn't say the light destroyed the darkness. It says the light shines in the darkness. They coexist. They dance together. And in that dance, something powerful is born. It's like watching a sunrise and a full moon hanging in the sky at the same time over New York Harbor. It shouldn't be possible. It defies natural law. But there it is, light and shadow, sharing the same space, creating a glow the world has never seen before. That's you, chosen one. You're the impossible image. You're the paradox that shouldn't exist, but does. You're the walking, breathing proof that God's ways are higher than our ways. And I need you to hear this with every fiber of your being. Your dual energy wasn't meant to confuse you. It was meant to anoint you. Every time you felt torn between mercy and judgment, you were being trained. Every time you felt soft and sharp at the same time, you were being refined. Every time you wanted to pray for someone and punch them simultaneously, you were being prepared for this moment, the moment you discover that both impulses come from the same source, divine love. Because real love doesn't just comfort, it also confronts. Real love doesn't just heal, it also protects. Real love isn't just gentle, it's also fierce. And once you step into this third frequency, once you stop fighting yourself and start integrating yourself, darkness can't manipulate you anymore. The enemy can't guilt you into passivity. He can't shame you into silence. He can't convince you that your discernment is unspiritual or your compassion is weakness. You become untouchable, not because you're hard, but because you're whole. The authority rising in you right now isn't something you earned, it's something you became. And the world is about to witness what happens when a chosen one finally stops apologizing for carrying both frequencies and starts wielding them with prophetic precision. If you feel that authority settling on your shoulders right now, if something ancient inside you just clicked into place, type I receive the authority in the comments. Because what comes next is going to require every ounce of that power. Listen to me, chosen one. I need to tell you something that's going to cut straight to the bone. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've been carrying a voice that could shake nations. A voice that carries the weight of decades, walking with God. A voice that's been refined in fires most people will never survive. But somewhere along the way, that voice got buried, silenced, locked in a cage you didn't even know you were building. And you know exactly when it happened, don't you? Maybe it was that moment in church when you spoke truth and they called you divisive. Maybe it was when your own children told you to stop being so intense, so dramatic, so much. Maybe it was the day your spouse looked at you with exhausted eyes and said, "Can't you just be quiet for once?" Maybe it was the trauma that wrapped around your throat like barbed wire and never fully let go. You became a caretaker instead of a truth teller. You learned to swallow your words to keep the peace. You traded your prophetic edge for being palatable. And every single time you bit your tongue, every time you smiled when you should have spoken, every time you chose silence over truth, something inside you died just a little bit more. But here's what breaks my heart. And here's what should shatter yours. That silence wasn't random. That suppression wasn't coincidence. Hell wasn't after your joy, beloved. Hell was after your voice. Because the enemy knows something about you that maybe you've forgotten. He knows that when someone your age speaks, when someone who's walked through the valley of the shadow of death and came out praising God, opens their mouth, the spiritual atmosphere shifts. Demons don't just hear you. They tremble. Think about it. Moses was 80 when God said, "Now you speak to Pharaoh." 80. And when Moses finally opened his mouth with God's authority behind him, empires fell, seas parted, nations were delivered. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she spoke over the infant Jesus in Luke 2:38. One elderly woman's voice became the first proclamation of redemption to all Jerusalem. Her words are still echoing through eternity 2,000 years later. Your age isn't your disqualification, dear one. It's your amplification. You think your voice doesn't matter because you're not on a platform, because you don't have a title, because the world has told you to step aside and let the younger generation lead. That's exactly what the enemy wants you to believe. But let me tell you what hell is terrified of. Hell is terrified of a grandmother who spent 50 years in the secret place and finally decides to speak what she's learned. Hell is terrified of a grandfather who's been silent for decades, but wakes up one morning and says, "Enough. I'm done being quiet about what I know is true." Your words don't just carry information, beloved. They carry authority, supernatural gravity. When you speak from 7 decades of watching God be faithful, young people don't just hear advice, they encounter living proof. Proverbs 16:31 says, "Gray hair is a crown of glory. It is gained in a righteous life." That crown isn't decorative, it's functional. It's the crown of a voice that's earned the right to be heard. But the enemy knew this. That's why he's worked overtime to muzzle you. Family betrayal wasn't just relational dysfunction, it was spiritual warfare, designed to make you doubt your worth. Church hurt wasn't just disappointment, it was a targeted attack to make you distrust your discernment. Financial struggle wasn't just bad luck, it was a scheme to keep you worried instead of warring. Every time life told you to be smaller, quieter, less, that was hell trying to prevent this moment. This moment right now, when you finally remember that your voice was never meant to blend in. It was meant to break through. At your age, with your scars, with your story, when you speak, demons don't debate you, they flee. And here's what's about to happen. Here's what heaven has been orchestrating while you've been silent. God is about to return your voice in a way you've never known. Not louder, weightier, not more frequent, more potent. Every word seasoned with decades of proven faithfulness. The generation rising needs to hear from someone who's actually walked with God through hell and back. They're drowning in podcasts and platforms, but starving for a voice that carries the authority of tested faith. That voice is yours. Type, "My voice is rising," if you feel something ancient waking up in your throat right now. Because what I'm about to show you next will prove that your silence is ending and your season of prophetic utterance has already begun. You know what breaks my heart? It's when I meet someone who's been carrying weight their entire life, and they don't even know whose weight it is. Listen to me, chosen one. That heaviness in your chest, that's not just yours. That restlessness that keeps you up at 3 a.m., that didn't start with you. That pattern of sabotaging success right when breakthrough comes, you inherited that. You've been living your grandmother's unfinished story. You've been fighting your grandfather's undefeated demons. You've been carrying burdens that were loaded onto your bloodline 3 generations before you were born. Think about your grandmother for a moment. Picture her face, those tired eyes, that forced smile at family gatherings. Do you know what dreams she buried? What did she sacrifice so her children could eat? What songs died in her throat because survival screamed louder than purpose? She wanted to paint. She wanted to write. She wanted to travel beyond that small town that felt like a prison. But poverty said no. Depression said no. An abusive husband said no. And so she folded those dreams into a box, shoved them under the bed, and pretended they never existed. But dreams don't die, beloved. They just wait. They hibernate in the spiritual DNA of a bloodline until someone strong enough is born to carry them into manifestation. That someone is you, your grandfather. He carried rage he could never name, combat trauma from a war nobody wanted to talk about, racism that crushed his dignity daily. He drank to forget. He worked himself to death trying to prove he was a man, and when he died, everyone said he did his best. But you know the truth. He died with his song still inside him. Exodus 20:5 says the iniquity of the fathers is visited upon the children to the 3rd and 4th generation. But here's what religion won't tell you. That verse isn't just about punishment. It's about pattern. It's about unfinished business. It's about assignments that got passed down because the previous generation didn't have the strength, the resources, or the revelation to complete them. You think you're fighting your own battles? No. You're finishing what they started. That addiction that keeps showing up in your family, that's a generational door that was opened and never closed. That poverty cycle where every time you get ahead, something catastrophic happens. That's not bad luck. That's a spiritual bloodline curse that's been operating for decades. Those broken marriages, those emotional walls, that inability to trust, those aren't personality flaws. Those are inherited defense mechanisms. But here's where it gets prophetic. Here's where heaven's plan becomes clear. I see a line, a spiritual lineage stretching back through time. I see your great-great-grandmother praying on her knees in a shack in the south, calling out to a God she believed in even when everything around her was darkness. I see your grandfather in a factory, hands bleeding, whispering, "Lord, let my grandchildren have better than this." Every prayer they prayed that seemed to go unanswered, you are the answer. Every tear they cried in secret, you are the harvest of those tears. Every time they should have quit but kept going, they kept going for you. You are not just chosen, beloved. You are chosen for them. 2 Corinthians 5:17 declares, "If anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. Old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new." Do you understand what that means? It means when you break free, you don't just break free for yourself. You break the chains off everyone who came before you and everyone who comes after you. Your healing becomes their redemption. Your breakthrough becomes their vindication. Your victory becomes their legacy. This is why the warfare has been so intense in your life. This is why the enemy has thrown everything at you: sickness, poverty, betrayal, depression, isolation, because he knows what you carry. He knows that if you ever wake up to your ancestral assignment, if you ever realize you're not just fighting for yourself, but for an entire bloodline, you become unstoppable. Think about Joseph. Genesis 50:20 records him saying to his brothers, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive." Joseph wasn't just saving Egypt. He was saving his entire family line. He was breaking a cycle of jealousy, betrayal, and dysfunction that could have destroyed generations. That's your assignment right now. You're the Joseph of your family. You're the one who goes into the pit, survives the prison, and rises to the palace not for yourself, but so the bloodline can survive what's coming. Your grandmother's buried dreams, you're going to resurrect them. Your grandfather's stolen dignity, you're going to restore it. The poverty that has haunted your family for generations, you're going to shatter it. The addiction, the divorce, the dysfunction, it all ends with you, but only if you accept the assignment. Only if you stop running from the calling. Only if you finally understand that your life was never just about you. You are the turning point. You are the breakthrough generation. You are the one who stands in the gap between what was and what will be. And everything, absolutely everything changes when you accept that. So, I'm asking you right now, chosen one. Are you ready to stop living your own small story and start finishing their epic one? Are you ready to be the answer to prayers prayed before you were born? Because the next part will show you exactly what heaven does when a generational assignment is accepted, and what I'm about to reveal will prove that you were born for such a time as this. Write, "I break the cycle" in the comments right now. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Right now, because your ancestors are watching, heaven is waiting, and your bloodline's future depends on what you do in this moment. Beloved chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to carry 3 eternal truths with you, like precious stones in your pocket. First, that split you feel inside that war between light and shadow, grace and grit, mercy and warfare, it's not your defect, it's your design. You were dual-coded for a reason. The world needs both your compassion and your discernment, your tenderness and your truth. Second, you are not carrying this alone. Every ancestor who prayed in secret, every tear your grandmother cried into her pillow, every whispered plea from generations past, they culminated in you. You are their answered prayer. You are the breakthrough they believed for, but never lived to see. Third, this dual energy you carry isn't meant to torture you. It's meant to transform you, and through you, transform everyone within your reach. Your light heals the broken. Your shadow exposes the lies. Both are sacred. Both are necessary. But here's what I need you to know with absolute certainty. You are not walking this path alone. Right now, as these words wash over your spirit, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is working behind the scenes of your life. He's moving mountains you can't see, opening doors you haven't found yet, orchestrating breakthrough you can't imagine. And beyond God's presence, you have this community, thousands of souls just like you, who understand the weight of carrying both frequencies. We're here. We see you. We will pray with you. So let me ask you this final question that will echo in your heart long after this video ends. Now that you know who you really are, now that you understand you carry both dark and light for divine purpose, what will you do with this revelation? Before you answer that, let me pray over you. Close your eyes wherever you are. Feel my hand on your shoulder. Heavenly Father, I place my hand on every person hearing these words right now. Lord, you see their dual nature, their holy contradictions, their beautiful complexity. Where the world has called them confused, you call them complete. Where others have called them conflicted, you call them commissioned. God, I pray you would silence every voice that has told them they're too much or not enough. Break every lie that says their intensity disqualifies them. Release them from shame about their shadow side, and give them wisdom to wield both light and darkness for your glory. Open doors no man can shut. Provide resources they haven't asked for. Send divine connections that recognize their frequency. Give them dreams and visions that clarify their path. Surround them with people who celebrate their complexity instead of demanding their conformity. Most of all, Father, let them feel your pleasure over their lives. Let them know they are loved, not in spite of their duality, but because of it. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below telling us which of the 8 signs resonated most powerfully with your spirit. Ask questions, share your story. This community will surround you with prayer and encouragement. And if this message has awakened something ancient in your soul, share it with someone who needs to hear that their dual nature isn't their curse, it's their calling. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell, because your awakening has only just begun. You are chosen. You are dual-coded. You are exactly who heaven needed. Now go and wield both your light and your shadow with holy authority.